Let's talk about Birthright for a second, because I want to say something a tiny bit nasty, now I want to say it about JLI. Birthright should not work. Unlike JLI, by the way, it breaks every rule in the educational rule book. I remember when they started discussing Birthright, and I was working at the Mandel Foundation with some really extraordinary educators like Seymour Fox and many others who were really my teachers, and we would sit around and we would laugh. We literally would chuckle, like these people wasting these millions of dollars on something which obviously can't work. Why? Zero preparation, very little control over the curriculum, and zero follow-up. That's 3 strikes. You've got to strike out. Well, you are going to take 40 extraordinarily hormonally overdosed college students, throw them on an airplane, throw them on a bus, keep them exhausted for 10 days, send them back home, and change their lives? What a joke. Well, yes, you will actually change a lot of their lives. The rate is going to be much, much higher in a program like JLI, which is longer and educationally much more serious and so on and so forth. But even with something like Birthright, which is pretty darn good in a lot of ways, you actually change people's lives. Why? Here's what I think people discover when they get off that plane. The first thing they discover is that Jews and Judaism are much more three-dimensional than they ever thought they were. First of all, if they grew up in Florida, they thought, and Florida's less true, let's take New York, the 5 towns. They think they know what Jews look like. And then they get off the plane and they discover they have no idea what Jews look like. Jews come in all different sorts of colors. And Jews wear all different sorts of things. That's a people, not a religion. And then they look at the airport and they see that there are Jews, actually, who push pails with mops. Not, God forbid, actually mopping, but, I mean, let's be serious. There have to be limits. We Jews, you know, there are boundaries. But they see a Jewish woman pushing a pail with a mop in it. They never saw a Jew do that at JFK. They never saw a Jew do that at LaGuardia. Well, nobody does that at LaGuardia. But they never saw a Jew do that anywhere. They see a Jew with a gun. Never saw that. They see a woman soldier in a uniform with a gun. They never saw that also. And she's Jewish. And 9 times out of 10 when they stop at JFK and they give them their passport, the person behind the little booth there is not named Shoshana, or Ophir, or Yocheved. And this one is. And she's growling at them, and they just really want to shower, or the girl in the next line. And she's not letting them in their country, and she's being a little bit rude, and they love her. Because they sense that there's something three-dimensional about this Jewishness thing that they never, ever, ever, ever saw in America. And then they finally get their luggage, and they finally get on the bus. And if the tour guide is any good, and the bus begins to make its way to Jerusalem, the tour guide at a certain point will say to them, take your earphones, and your iPads, and your iPods, and your iDis, just get them out of your ears, and look at the caves on the right side of the highway. Those are the caves where the Maccabees actually fought the Greeks. They weren't really the Greeks, they were the Seleucids, but it doesn't matter that much. We still have Hanukkah. Those are the actual caves. Those are not like the caves. Those are the caves. And then 15 minutes up the road, on the left-hand side, there's all these burnt-out, repainted Jeeps and lorries. And they tell them that not that long ago, in the lifetime of your grandparents, the city that you're going to now was off limits. Jews couldn't get there. In fact, that's why it's not mentioned in the Israeli Declaration of Independence. Because Ben-Gurion said, I'm not putting the name of a city that we don't even control in our declaration. Now what's our problem? There's too many Jews heading in, look at the traffic. No, that's a serious thing. That's an extraordinary accomplishment. And driving up this one little highway, on the way to the city that King David founded, with the caves of the Maccabees on the right-hand side, and the burnt-out Jeeps, which have been repainted so that they last a little bit longer, hopefully, on the left-hand side. And by the way, if it was me, because I'm really not nice, I would say to these 20, 21-year-old college students, by the way, that siege in Jerusalem was broken by a guy named Yitzhak Rabin. He was 24 years old. What have you done? That's what I would say. That's why they don't hire me. But they get it, even without the obnoxious tour guide. They get that a road tells a story. The 405, where I lived for a very long time, tells no story. And they get in a certain way that the story of the Maccabees, whether they know the details or not, and the story of the breaking of the siege of Jerusalem, whether they know the details or not, they know in some visceral sense that it's their story. And you know what else they know? And you'll forgive me because you're not going to like this, but I'm leaving shortly. They know that Plymouth Rock is not their story. And they know that their great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents would not have been allowed on the Mayflower. And they know that nobody in their family, as wide as the family tree grows, defended the Alamo. For the first time, they see places that tell their story. And they realize that Judaism is more than Hebrew school, a boring synagogue experience on those 3 days during the year, and a whole bunch of stuff you don't understand. It is three-dimensional. And that's why they come back and they tell you stories like that. Because what they encounter is peoplehood.